This bike's very similar to the last one, where it's a drip feed from the oil tank. There's a sight glass there to tell you if you've got any oil in the oil tank, and you have to press that every 3 miles or 5 miles. But with this one, it's got no sight glass on it, so you don't know if you're getting any oil into the engine. They did a modification where they put an oil pump on the side, which I had done, and through the glass you can actually see it dripping, so you know definitely it's getting some oil into the engine. But it's a total loss engine, which is like an oil bath in the sump, and as the crank is going round, it's splashing oil up. There's no actual oil feed to the top. If it gets too much oil, it just starts to smoke. If you've got too much oil into the crankcase, it's got a breather from there into this case, and it lubricates the chain. When I got this bike, Graham, who's a motorbike lad who lives near me, came to have a look at it, and he says, well, there's not much to do to this one. I said, I know. He says, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to get a set of lights and restore it, back and front, and a hole on it, because it didn't have any at the time. And he said to me, he says, oh, be back in a minute. And he came back with this light. I said, what's that then? He says, it's a light his granddad had gave him about 40 years ago, and it had been in a box in his garage ever since. And I offered to buy it off him, and he said no. He said, you can have it for nothing. I'll be glad. The light that his granddad gave him is going back on the bike. Although it's of a similar year to the last one, it's actually got drum brakes that actually work. They aren't as efficient as modern day disc brakes, but you have to ride the bike accordingly. This is the magneto, which creates the spark for the plug. This is the kickstart ratchet on this machine. So you kickstart it down, and that turns the engine over. You press the kickstart, that sprocket goes down, which turns that sprocket, which turns the big chain wheel behind there, which in turn is a sprocket on the front, which turns the engine, which makes the piston go up and down, which enables the engine to start. Front forks are what we call girder forks with a spring, but I believe they are of a Druid design. I don't know if AJS made their own or they made them under license. Quite efficient for what they are. This bike has got blue near tyres on, so you do get a bit of suspension in the tyres, not much. I found this bike very reliable, except for one day on the Banbury run. Fortunately, I hadn't lost my way and I was on the course, and I was about 3 miles from the finish, and it expired going up a hill. I did the normal things you do in these bikes: check the plug, check the points, check your petrol. Still couldn't get it going, and I realised it hadn't got any compression. On looking round the bike, I found out that the exhaust valve was sticking up, and there's a little collar there, and that is the decompressor. When you pull the lever, it pushes the valve up, which obviously lets the compression out. I didn't know that nut behind there had come undone and wound up, and it was doing the same as the decompressor. It was lifting the valve up, and this is why I didn't have any compression. Very awkward to get to that nut, so I ruined some spanners. That spanner started life as a ring spanner, and that started its life as a 7/16 AF spanner, and they're the spanners I can use to tighten that up if it ever comes undone again on a run. And I keep these 2 old spanners that I've ruined on the bike.